Press the bell icon and never miss an update from ET Auto.
India reports one of the highest road accident-related deaths, and mostly automobiles are involved in it. Today we have here with us Mr. Global McIntosh, Global Chairman of New Car Assessment Program, popularly known as NCAP. Welcome to ET Auto, Mr. Global McIntosh. It's a great pleasure having you at ET Auto Big Bite Show. We have seen that we have highest rate of accidental deaths in India, and mostly involves automobiles, cars, bikes. You are an agency which rates the performance of car based on security and safety. How do you look at Indian automobile market when it comes to safety, and what are the key challenges that we have?
Well, it's interesting. The key challenges really are to make sure that in the event of a crash, people are safe. And also, now there are new technologies, it's important that the car itself can avoid the collisions. So we've actually progressed in the last 20, 30 years, and more recently in the last 5 years, when cars can avoid collisions. But that doesn't mean to say we should not protect the people who are in the cars. We know how to do it. Many countries in the world have safe cars, many countries don't, but we know how to do it. So what we want to do is encourage people who buy cars to think about that when they buy a car. Make sure you buy a car that if you have a crash, you are not unnecessarily injured, and also it doesn't necessarily hurt the people around you. It's pedestrian safe, it's vulnerable road user safe. Cars aren't the only part of road safety equation, but they're an important part.
So we see, if we see Indian market and Europe or US or developed market, there the cost is not that big implication, but here in India cost is a big challenge. So looking at the cost structure, is it fair to assess the cars on the same parameter as in Europe and in India?
It's always a difficult question, but when the reality is everybody's life's important, and the cost really is the total cost of your life over your whole lifetime. So why should you be sold something in India that is less safe than it's something that is sold to someone else in another country? A lot of these costs are already covered by the research. The car manufacturers have worldwide research, worldwide intelligence. They know how to make a safe car. They know how to make it at low cost. I can say I've been doing this for over 25 years. I've heard this argument about cost by manufacturers for 25 years, and I've seen others have heard it for longer. It's important, but it's not the only issue. We can make safer cars, we can make them cheaply, and we should do so.
But in India, we have seen that a lot of people move around on two-wheelers. If we shift to four-wheeler, a low-cost four-wheeler, don't you think it is more safer than two-wheeler? Is it not a right progress?
Not always. Sometimes the four-wheeler can be very dangerous, and we've seen that in a lot of quad bikes and small tiny cars where people believe they are safe but they are not. And equally, some things can be done with motorcycles to make them more safe. We've had a Stop the Crash demonstration here this week showing how important ABS is to motorcycles. There are technologies that can make a difference to all vehicles, and at Global NCAP we want to be across all that spectrum and show people there are savings you can make, and make sure that you and your family and your friends are safe as you travel.
So you have crash tested a lot of Indian made vehicles also. What are the key challenges that you find out? What are the problems? Because most of the vehicles have been rated very low. So even the top selling ones. What would be your advice to the manufacturers here and to the consumers as well?
Well, manufacturers know what to do to make a difference. It requires design quality, it requires equipment quality of steel, of the infrastructure, but you can make a vehicle that will withstand the crash test. It is possible. We know that's possible, and we're seeing a rapid change in India in the last few years, where we've gone from cars with only 1-star rating up to cars to 4-star rating. That's very impressive. The rate of change in India is very impressive. The Indian manufacturers have risen to that improvement. Unfortunately, there is always some laggards, and I think we need to expose those people, those manufacturers who cannot or who will not make 5-star cars or 4-star cars, and we should demonstrate to people that there are 4-star cars of the same price that they can buy and they should buy. So NCAPs, or Global NCAP in particular, is about showing the difference between the poorly rated cars and the higher rated cars.
So what are you trying to say, that it's not always cost that leads to a substandard when it comes to crash norms? That's what you are saying?
Absolutely. It's
So
not
cost has nothing to do with
well,
that?
cost is important and there are costs involved, but in the end it's about what's the total cost to the community and how can we manage that. Governments can set standards. NCAP shows standards above the government level, really, to encourage those people, those manufacturers who can make better cars to provide them to consumers. We've seen that in the world for over 40 years since the first NCAP test. It's not as though this is something of a new idea. And the manufacturers who are making one-star car here at the moment in India have been making five-star cars for 15 or 20 years in other countries. So if they can make them there, and some of those countries are not high-income countries. In ASEAN NCAP in Malaysia, we have seen a rapid shift with introduction of low-priced, high-quality cars that are safe. That can be done here just as much as it is in Malaysia or in China, in South Korea. We have seen many countries develop their five-star cars. It's possible, it's happening in India, and we're very pleased to see it. So many manufacturers rising to that so quickly. We want all of them to do that.
Well, you had plans to bring India NCAP. How is that progressing?
Well, that's a matter of how you set up an NCAP. It's different in different countries. Sometimes government's involved, sometimes they're not involved. Sometimes insurers are involved, sometimes motoring clubs are involved. It's all different now, and sometimes you can do it without an NCAP, you can do it by independent testing. So I think there's been some discussion about having an Indian NCAP. That was to happen. There are some considerations being undertaken. That's okay. But we've been testing the cars, showing the people the results. From Global NCAP's point of view, we want to show the people in India there is a difference. And if we can form an NCAP, so be it. If we can't, we'll show it some other way.
How do you see this? Yesterday, the Indian government representative said that they're not going to have Bharat NCAP. What is your reaction to that?
I think we're a bit puzzled by that position. But the reality is, we have seen already published the differences. We have seen the manufacturers rise to the higher levels. And if the Indian government doesn't do it, someone else will do it. And unfortunately, the Indian government will miss out on the kudos that they get from being able to do it. So I think we need more discussion, more talk, and we will eventually develop that. We had the same problems in other countries where governments decided not to do it or they didn't participate. I've seen it happen in Australia. I've seen the changes happen in other countries. So, I'm optimistic that in the end, the consumers in India will be able to see the difference between poor cars and better cars.
We are taking a big leap in technology also when it comes to automobile. We are going to have electrified vehicles. We have autonomous vehicles. In electrified, we see a lot of problem with lithium-ion batteries, like it bursts. Even in autonomous, it is, because it is hacked, it could be unsafe for people. It could be used as weapons also. What NCAP is doing towards that?
Well, we're testing as many of these different vehicles as we can. We have limited resources like everybody, but we do test them and we do promote where those benefits are. There's no doubt that autonomous vehicles are going to help change the world at some time in the future. But right now, today, we have millions of people dying on the roads. We need to ensure we make the circumstances better for them today. The issues of batteries, of electricity, of changing fuels, they're important. They're important for environmental reasons. They're important for all sorts of reasons. And we shouldn't give up just because we have a problem. We should be looking forward to how we can make the system safer by 2030. And every effort we can do, every piece of stimulus, every piece of scale we can bring to this by working together with other countries to working internally, we should be doing.
So one last question, do you think that with autonomous and electrification, the automobile will become further even dangerous, or you can say safety concern will further rise in these kind of vehicles?
I don't think consumers will accept unsafe vehicles at any time. Less and less people are saying...
But do you think it will enhance the complication when it comes to safety?
Well, not necessarily. It will enhance the testing. We will have to do more testing. We will have to be more public about how we do those testing. Not necessarily more public. We will have to make sure the consumer feels confident. That's really important today. People are connected in the world. They need to know what's happening. But it doesn't mean to say we won't solve those problems. Engineers are smart people. We will work out how to solve those problems. The more incentive we give them by having informed consumers who will buy safer, cleaner, greener cars, that's what will make a difference.
One last message, what you have to give away to the automakers in India?
Well, keep on lifting your game to make those safer and cleaner cars. You can do it, it's possible. Their overseas compatriots have done it. You need to demonstrate to the people of India you can do it here.
Thank you so much for talking to ET
Thank
Auto.
you.
Thank you.